Ambulance service. Is the patient breathing?
Barely.
Okay. Is he breathing right now, though, even if he's...
Is he breathing, Tom? He keeps taking big dark breaths. Basically, my 6-year-old stepson is falling. He's banged his head.
Okay.
And while he was on the floor, he's banged his head another 5 times.
Okay.
He's lost colour. He's got a big lump on his head.
Is he awake?
So what, sorry?
Is he awake?
He's half in and out,
Okay.
but he's banged his head quite hard.
Is his breathing noisy or abnormal?
Is it noisy or abnormal? It's barely there. He's barely breathing. He's in and out. He's taking it hard.
Okay.
He's basically been treating us all like shit. He's threw himself on the floor. He's headbutting the floor. I'm trying to pick him up in the process. He's headbutting me in the process.
Okay.
I've got him up. He was breathing like a little bit better at first.
Yeah.
Washed him down, put some water down him, tried to obviously get him like a bit more colour in him. But then obviously I've seen the lump on his head that he's done to himself.
Right. Help's been arranged for him. Okay.
Yeah.
Try and keep calm for me. Can you get him lay out flat on his back?
Flat on his back.
How old is he?
He's 6, nearly 7.
6 years old. Okay.
Yeah.
Right, there with me.
He's losing. He's very pale, but obviously it's a big bang. He's knocked himself out by the look of him.
And he's barely breathing now.
He's breathing. He's barely breathing. He's lost just at the minute.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you how to give basic life support. Okay, so you can just keep going. He's still not responding.
No.
Okay, just keep going for me.
He's
Don't
got
stop.
2 big lumps on his head where he's banged himself.
Okay. Just keep going. Don't stop. Just keep going that way. Push, push, push.
This is the tragic story of Arthur-Labinjo Hughes. I will give you the full timeline of the events in this tragic case. I have found a couple of newspaper articles that I'll read out to you. Then I'll give you my own personal opinion. This is a big story that came out this year from the UK, and it does raise further questions regarding childcare and child abuse. So if you do end up liking this video and you're into true crime stories and interrogation analysis in general, please hit subscribe. Now, the horrific case of Arthur-Labinjo Hughes is raising serious questions about how his abuse went undetected for so long, whether authorities failed in their duty to protect him, and how lockdown may have prevented them from doing so. In the space of just 18 months, Arthur went from a bright and bubbly boy to a weak and emaciated one terrified for his life. Here is the timeline of events leading up to his death. Just to confirm, when Arthur died, he was 6 years old. We go back to February 2019. Arthur's biological mother, Olivia Labinjo Hallcrow, she's 29 at the time. She's arrested for stabbing and killing her partner, Gary Cunningham. She was convicted of manslaughter and sentenced to 11 years in prison. Arthur's father, 29-year-old Thomas Hughes, takes over care for his son, and in August of 2019, he meets Emma Tustin, who is 32 years old, and they both meet online. We move forward to November 2019. Hughes and his mother, Joanne, met staff at Arthur's school to discuss their growing concerns about his behavior. Teachers reported that Arthur was becoming fixated with his dad disappearing from his life and had also become obsessed with death, murder, and guns. In March 2020, Hughes took Arthur to a children and adolescent mental health services practitioner. Her name was Kerry Forsyth Benson, who reported the boy saying he was worried about his dad not returning. She said his physical appearance seemed fine and his aggression and anxiety had reduced. She concluded there was no mental health issue. Hughes and Arthur moved into Tustin's home in Solihull. This was when COVID-19 regulations were announced, the initial lockdown in England, and Solihull is a city in Birmingham, smack bang in the middle of England. On the 16th of April 2020, Joanne Hughes reported Arthur to social services after taking photographs of bruises on his back, which she discovered when Hughes and Arthur visited. She tried to convince Hughes to leave the boy with her, but he refused. On the 17th of April 2020, social worker Jane Kavanagh from Solihull Council visited Tustin's home. She said she was told Arthur and Tustin's son had been play fighting with boxing gloves, resulting in the bruises, and said she could see a single faint bruise in the middle of Arthur's back. She said, when asked how safe and happy they felt on a scale of 0 to 10, with 0 being represented by the floor and the ceiling being the opposite, both boys very confidently jumped up and pointed at the ceiling, saying they felt very happy and very safe. She concluded there were no safeguard concerns and no need to refer the case for a full child service assessment. Hughes was instead offered an early help program to assist Arthur in dealing with his traumatic past, which he declined. Giving evidence during the trial, Hughes said Tustin had coached the two boys to lie to social services about the fight with boxing gloves and warned him they would have their children taken away from them if they did not go along with it as well. On the 18th of April 2020, Arthur's uncle, Daniel Hughes, spoke to West Midlands Police about the bruises on the boy's back. He sent the photos to an officer but never heard back. Police later closed the log, believing it required no further role for force response as social services were involved. On the 20th of April 2020, Joanne Hughes told Arthur's school about the referral to social services. Michelle Hull, who was the safeguarding lead at Dickens Heath Community Primary School, contacted social services, but they was told they had no concerns. On the 8th of June 2020, Arthur's school reopened, but Hughes did not send his son back. Initially claiming the boy hadn't slept well, over the following days, he reported to the school that Arthur was losing weight, wasn't eating, and might faint. Arthur never went back to school before his death. On the 15th of June, Tustin took Arthur with her to an appointment with her hairdresser, Catherine Milhench, who said Arthur was told to face the door and not move during the 6-hour session. She described his appearance as skeletal and said his legs were shaking like he couldn't hold himself up. On the 16th of June, video footage from a CCTV camera in the living room where Arthur slept on the floor showed him appearing weak as he woke up and struggled to carry his duvet out of his room. But you're looking at CCTV footage right now where during the incident where Arthur is appearing weak, in the other room, his father and his father's girlfriend are sitting there. Now what's interesting is they're sharing an ice cream, and that's not a problem. So he's starving in the other room and they're sharing an ice cream. The starving obviously is reprehensible, but this, what they're doing right now in itself, nothing wrong with that. Just a couple sitting down. But have a look now at Tustin. See her face? She hears a noise. And she's thinking to herself, is Arthur awake? Does Arthur need me? Can I be bothered to deal with him? Hope he's not awake. I can't be bothered to deal with him, etc., etc. Now the family returned to Milhench's house to finish the hair appointment, during which time Hughes and Tustin took turns shouting at him. Like a game of tennis, she told the court. Her partner Tobias German snuck the boy a glass of water without Tustin and Hughes knowing and said he looked petrified.
Basically, he'd gone out to get me a birthday cake as for the kids. Arthur was told to sit on the thinking step. Arthur's put himself all over the floor. He's banged himself off the radiator. He's hit me. He's kicked me in the process of me trying to get him back on the thinking step. He's then gone on all fours on the floor, and I've told him to get up. And I shut the door over, and all I heard was a crack off the floor. He was headbutting the floor on all fours. Headbutted the floor once. Said, "Arthur, get up. You're going to hurt yourself. I've phoned your dad." He went, "I don't care." At that point, he was fine. And then he dropped his head again as I've tried to bear hug him and pick him up, and he headbutted the floor 3 times.
Here on this carpet?
Round about, the door was shut, so if you go in, I'll show you. Because it's probably about here his head was, but it's concrete, there's no underlay under that. He's battered his dad, he's hit me. When I tried to get him off the floor from headbutting the floor, he headbutted me, and he kicked me and he's hit me. Yesterday we went to my friend's house, and he pushed me down 5 stairs. "You're not my real mum, I hate ya." And even so, I've done my best for that kid. I tried to get him off the floor.
Arthur was taken to the Birmingham Children's Hospital, and later that evening, Tustin and Hughes were arrested on suspicion of causing grievous bodily harm with intent. On the 17th of June 2020, doctors concluded that nothing could be done to save Arthur, and his life support machine was switched off at 1 a.m. Now, to give you further context in the kind of abuse that Arthur faced, Tustin and Hughes starved him force-fed him salt-laden dishes, and made him stand alone for more than 14 hours a day, in a degrading, punishing, and hellish regime over the last painful months of his life. Now, a local MP, Julian Knight, a local MP to Solihull in Birmingham, he said, "There's a palpable sense of real loss and tragedy over this, and frankly a sense of anger, and questions over how this was allowed to happen, how these monsters were allowed to inflict this horrible torture on this young, defenseless boy." Further stories were reported that neighbors revealed Tustin's violent side, previously saw her chase an ex-boyfriend with a garden spade, underlining the turmoil that Arthur was forced to live with alongside his final days. One of the neighbors, an ex-neighbor of Tustin, claims she saw Tustin armed herself with a garden spade and angrily chased away an ex-boyfriend. The neighbor explained she was a nutcase, a Fruit Loop. One day, her ex came down the road, there had been a row, and she was chasing him down the road with a garden spade. The evil stepmother was also said to have rowed with neighbors in disputes over cats. As soon as she moved in, she gave a woman a few doors down a nervous breakdown about cats. She was shouting, "Get your cats and stop shitting on my driveway." Social workers, police and teachers are facing damning questions after Arthur's stepmother was found guilty of his murder and his father convicted of manslaughter. Now, the actual cause of death, which came out in the trial, was Emma grabbed Arthur and repeatedly slammed his head on a hard surface over and over again, which is why when the paramedics came, she claimed Arthur tried to fight her and then hit his head on the floor. Now, Emma Tustin was jailed for life and Thomas Hughes was jailed for 21 years. The lenient prison sentences handed to the monsters behind the death of Arthur are set to be referred to the Attorney General in a bid to see the pair's time behind bars extended. They could face a harsher sentence after Julian Knight warned their case will be passed on to Britain's chief legal advisor. And in regards to my thoughts on this case, firstly, let's have a look at Arthur's biological mother, right? She ended up killing her boyfriend or partner at the time, Gary Cunningham. This shows to me that Arthur did not grow up in a stable household. There's nothing wrong with single mothers. There's nothing wrong if the parents are, if the father is living away from the son, if the mother is living away. I understand that's life. I'm not criticizing that. What I'm trying to say is his father, his real father, who when he took care of Arthur, certainly saw Arthur as a burden and thought to himself, I'm now free. My ex-wife or girlfriend or whatever is in jail. I don't need to deal with her again. I've got this son whom I guess he took care of him out of guilt, right? Guilt is a defense mechanism that sometimes can tell us when we're doing something wrong. So when the social services or the local board or whoever it was approached him and said, hey, now you got to take care of your son, or he goes for adoption or foster care or whatever, out of guilt, he took him. But it seems to me his hatred for his son, the burden he felt, when he looked at his son, he thought, Jesus Christ, I have to deal with you again, right? All of that, he took it out on him. And in regards to the stepmom or his girlfriend, same idea. She is an individual. She wants to live her life, go to the hairdressers, go out and party, be with her boyfriend. She wants complete freedom. She doesn't want any questions asked of her. She doesn't want any responsibilities. And that in itself is fine. But when there's a little kid who's, 4 or 6 around at that time, and you're sitting there in the living room, and he's in the other room, and you can hear him crying. This was done on purpose. They inflicted pain on this boy on purpose. See, when you see a child crying, you feel something. You may not act because it may not be your child, but you feel something. You may ask the parents, hey, or you may tell the parents, hey, your child is crying. Right? These are just normal, humanly reactions to when we see kids. But they did nothing. In fact, they wished for this. They wanted this. They knowingly stopped this kid, hit this kid, slammed this kid without a single care in the world. And I look at the governing bodies and I think to myself, sometimes I think to myself, you're not going to be able to find everything, right? And there's obviously far more cases that social services fix or manage to clean up, so to speak, than we know about. But when they look at the mother being in jail, the biological mother, and when you look at different people coming to social services saying, hey, there's something wrong with this kid, go take a look, go take a look, go take a look. They didn't, because they just didn't care either. They couldn't be asked dealing with it. And the only one good thing to come from this story, if indeed it is a good thing, the entire Premier League footballing board paid tribute to Arthur one weekend, where before the game started, I think they all clapped their hands or there was a minute of silence or something to acknowledge his life. And I hope that this British legal expert extends their time behind bars and they should never, ever, ever be released. Thank you for listening.